Why don't you guys go ahead and start, and I'll just continue to start around and
Okay. Well, I will call this meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. There are no members of the public, so we will skip public comment and go straight to approving agenda. Do I have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
And Kristen, do you want to second that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Patrick, are you joining us today? You know what? Since Patrick's here, Patrick can help us figure this out. And
Oh, that
maybe we can just put Beth on the big screen and we can sit here and instead of doing what we're doing. Can you help us do that? Thank you. Okay,
can I
so
come back?
you can come back. So, Beth, we're going to take a minute to make this work so we can have you on the big screen and we can all just discuss.
I'm so glad to be on the big screen. Oh, I like your vest, Barb.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, those are good
Um,
colors.
Daughter-in-laws, they're the best.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I have daughters, so I know, but I'm not sure about the son-in-laws yet.
I'm sure they'll be great wherever they are.
Yes, they don't even talk about it. I'm like, come on. I just want the grandbabies. I don't really care about
Yeah.
the other stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Is Liz on the big screen with me?
Yep.
Yay.
Patrick, thank you for being the hero of the day. Possibly.
He doesn't hear that very often. You should say that again.
Not enough, huh?
Not enough.
Plug.
I'm sorry about your headphones, Kristen.
No, it's user error. I know that for a fact.
I get that. Has anybody seen the movie Frozen?
Yeah.
yes.
I think I've seen parts, but never.
My daughter is obsessed with it, and the soundtrack playing.
Wait, like she's trying to be frilly dresses.
Oh, she was wearing that today.
My granddaughter.
I'll plug my headphones back while we're setting up so that we can talk to each other. Liz, how are you?
Good. I'm noticing that I do not have editing access to the minutes right now. I should have, usually that's not a problem.
I should be able to fix that. Give me a
Thank,
second.
thank you.
Want to sit here and wait and see what happens? I have people's lives at stake here, young man.
All right, Liz, that should be fixed for you if you refresh it. And Patrick is, oh, I'm logged in as MTA Zoom. I don't know if that's an issue.
That's.
Okay, do you need me to log out as MTA Zoom and log back in as me? Okay. All right, I'll see you guys in a second.
Or you can probably just stay and this will take.
Should I get out of Zoom?
Recording in progress.
If everybody else is on this screen, it'll be the future of your.
I'm gonna turn this off. Yeah, click on that.
Now you should be good to go. Beth, can you hear us okay? Okay.
I can hear you.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for saving the day. All right, this is so much better than what we were doing a second ago. So, we've approved the agenda. Liz, that was Barb first, Kristen second. And now we can dive in to our first discussion item today, which is how we want to hear, receive, and act on community feedback in our meetings. So some background on why we're discussing this at all is when we go into a season that is emotional and hard and that brings up strong views and opinions from our community. People want to be heard, which is natural and phenomenal, and we want to hear people. And at the same time, if we spend all our time hearing people out, that impedes our ability to plan and get things done. So there were some requests to just take a second to reevaluate how we want to hear, receive, and act on community feedback moving forward. So I'll shut up and open the floor and see how our committee is feeling. Don't all speak at once.
I guess I can start. So our last meeting, we were going through slideshows and, literally bullet by bullet. And I felt like there was a lot of community input, which we all received well, and we didn't get very far. And it just, after the meeting, I was like, so we're especially, what are our roles in this meeting, and how much community input do we need to take? It wasn't very eloquent, but we didn't get very far with that last meeting, and it did become a little contentious, fact checking, and just it was hard work and all added value. It really slowed down our process. So I just wondered and how we move forward with when we need to get things done and having community input is how I felt after that meeting.
I guess I'd say that I feel like it's important because it gives us a perspective on what information our community is looking for from us, right? And so maybe being like, okay, more I think combining the efficiency with hearing it, right? Because we are looking community engagement to hear community voice and hear what information people are looking for, and ideally being able to provide it. And so community engagement committee is more or less, to me, it's right, our planning sessions, right? So to kind of know when is it a hearing, an event, right? And when is it a planning session, and making sure that our planning sessions are productive, because we risk losing the opportunity to have those events and engage with our community and accomplish our goals if if the process isn't getting completed to a point where we can be ready to go out and do that, right? Like our planning sessions need to be planning so that we can get there and hear from a wide variety of voices. And so that's how I feel like it's helpful when people join us to help plan and give us ideas about how to improve and make what, make sure that we're addressing the needs of a variety of community members. But that's the planning piece, right? That's the planning piece. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes total sense.
So not having been here, but having read the notes,
You were there, you were here.
yeah, I was at the last planning session, but I wasn't at the board meeting where it was presented. So, and I think you got a lot of feedback and you had another meeting after. Yeah,
Yep.
it kind of resolved what some suggestions were. And I wonder if there will always be editing, no matter what you do, no matter whoever you are, doesn't matter, there's gonna be editing from all different places, so my wonders are, where do we draw the line? Like, and say, what are our goals? And I'm not saying a hard line in the sand, but like, what information do we want to deliver at what time? And then maybe do it, and then you can always go back and add more information, because we're obviously in flux all the time and things keep happening, so we can keep people informed as the process goes on. So instead of viewing it as a final presentation, saying these are benchmarks, these are times when we're going to check in with you, and this is what the information we're going to give you, and this is where we're at. Just thoughts, random thoughts.
I think that's a great thought, and I would love to dig deeper into that when we talk about the actual presentation. I just want to make sure that we also have time to talk about how we want to specifically take community feedback in our meetings, too,
Okay.
if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
I 100% agree, Barb.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is just for context, because I wasn't at the last community engagement committee meeting. Is that what we're referring to? Okay, yeah, so unfortunately, I'm not gonna be much help for feedback from that meeting, but.
Question, yes, a clarifying question. There was a community member's letter you shared, are you referring to that as well?
That's a great question. I think based on the feedback that I've received since our last community engagement committee, the reason why this is an agenda item is that there was a feeling that not a lot of planning happened at our last CEC meeting, because there was a lot of feelings that were being brought up that were slowing down the work that we were able to do, and it wasn't emotions from board members, it was emotions from community members. So trying to understand how do we as a committee want to respond to that if we're trying to get things done and community members are wanting to go in a different direction from where we as a committee are going. Is that, Liz, Beth, is that a fair description?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think-
very much so.
Yeah, we want to be able to keep moving forward, right? And that's pretty much the goal,
Okay.
is just keep
I'm with
it.
you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
kind of
not,
because that's these meetings, if I'm understanding it correctly, is where community members have the opportunity to engage, whereas
Exactly.
regular business meetings, that's not the case. So yeah, that's rock and hard place.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and Oof, I don't know.
I think
Yeah,
the challenge is how do you receive the community input in a way that advances the work,
right,
rather than have it be something that prohibits the work from
Right.
moving forward?
acknowledge this is what was just said. Is what is perceived, the feeling is how to take that information, put it to use in action and continue to move forward.
Because when you think about if I think about the charge of this committee, the charge of the committee is not to hear from the community at these meetings. That's a means, not an ends. The charge is to engage in the work, however that's sort of outlined. While bringing the community in a more sort of intimate way than what the board meetings really allow for. But the community engagement part has to be a value add, not something that slows or stops the work that your charge actually is.
And that's a good point, because we might be over representing certain voices, like people who have the means to come to committee meetings and who might have special interests or might be from a certain town. All of that might mean that we're overhearing some voices and not hearing other voices, which would be taking away from our charge.
And if it prevents you from planning and carrying out community engagement events that reach a larger audience, then it is preventing you from really your charge as a committee.
Yeah.
So
Yes, ma'am.
the structure. I'm seeing it as a structure.
Yeah.
Of this committee. And the way it's been since I've been here is that whoever shows up is part of the committee. But that's not necessarily the case, because we're actually running this like a meeting. So I feel like we're doing two different things at the same time. So is there a way to maybe restructure how the meetings go so that folks that can join us can have their say, but then we always kind of go back to our nucleus?
Absolutely. How would you structure that?
I don't know.
And but the reality, which I think you're sort of naming a little bit there, Barb, is there are in reality 4 members of this committee that have any sort of voting authority. Period. And you are the 4 that are charged with what the charge is, not the folks that are here sometimes and not other from the community. Like
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of how do you bring them into the fold and still get your work done.
Right.
If bringing them into the fold is preventing you from getting your work done, well, we got to figure out how to address that.
Does that change the charge?
Right.
No, I think it enhances the charge. Like it's enabling you to fulfill the charge, I guess.
Okay.
Because your charge isn't to only engage the 2 or 3 people that show up at these meetings. Your charge is to bring information out to the broad community and receive information from the broad community.
Yes.
And if the 1 or 2 or 3 that show up here prevent you from doing that, that's actually preventing you from fulfilling that charge.
Did the Finance Facilities Committee have similar challenges a couple of years ago when we had some regular attendees at meetings? I'm just thinking of like,
A couple of years ago, there were 2 different ones, so it might have been just finance, less so facilities.
yeah, I can't remember if at that point the 2 committees were merged. But I'm thinking specifically, I'm thinking of a couple of couple of community members that were outspoken during public comment, in regular business meetings.
Yeah.
And if that was a similar challenge, how was that handled? Just because I'm thinking that there's probably similarities in scenarios.
Yeah.
And how was that challenge received and handled? Cause I could.
I actually think this committee has, I think that has come up maybe some, but I think what I think was true in those cases was, there'd be a particular topic that someone was interested in, they show up for that meeting and
Right.
maybe have, had a lot of voice in that meeting, but they weren't consistently showing up to meeting after meeting.
Got it.
I think historically this group has struggled the most because of its desire and ability to draw more community members to be in the room and be part of the conversation. That's great.
Right.
And presents this challenge that we're
Yeah.
trying to figure out as well.
Yeah, cause I mean, I think back to when Krista was the chair when we were on, it was just a different outfit, if you
Yeah.
will.
It was.
Yeah.
And I think that's, part of the nature of this committee and how it's just been kind of fluid with the way that the meetings have been. Don't take this wrong way, but led, like historically speaking.
Right.
Cause I think you and I were on, we
Yes.
started at the same time.
Yes.
And it was basically anybody that showed up was, part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And that was how we came up with all the different, I can't remember the presentation that was done, but anyway, it was all, all voices, present were heard and participated, but,
Tell me more about what that looks like.
I don't know, Beth, you were part of those meetings as well. I don't really.
Yeah. I felt like it was very agenda driven by the people that showed up. So they had their agenda, and the community engagement committee had their work to be done, and it was definitely back and forth, and it was hard. I thought that was a hard group, and
And I think-
it was more people, but the same people, right? Every week. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was all the same voice, but from more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
we
feel like
did.
the structure was similar. So
Oh yeah, I was gonna, sorry, that Barb, I was gonna, because there was an agenda and it did have planning for certain events. And then we planned those events and then we executed them, right? And so we did do that. It was just on a different topic, right? So we had a whole showing of a movie, little groups. We got into, I think some discussions happened at Mount Abe pre in the beginning of the day things, right? Like we definitely executed a lot of events, surveys, and community engagement. So I think it was just a different topic. So, and then people were bringing ideas about, and really wanting to move forward. So it was like, how can we do this sooner, right? So there was an aggressive, like, not in a bad way, to like be like, how do we get this happening now? And what have we already done? Do we already have this information? Like, right? Like, and so it was different than some experiences in that way.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it was disruptive though, in that, it was very much the same thing coming up over and over, and it was not productive time. In my opinion, at one point, I wondered what exactly we were doing there because it was very disruptive. We did do the movie, we did do some discussions, but aside from what happened outside of those things, it did not feel that this group was productive in that fashion. From my perspective, it didn't feel productive. So, I think maybe that's what people are feeling right now too. That's why I'm seeing similarities.
I think that when we had a goal, there was a concept that was talked about, then there was an idea of what we could do. It was the movie, there were surveys, and then activities that happened after. So we had a goal of action versus just concepts that were being thrown around. once that stopped, once the goals were realized, that's
Then the
when
hamster wheel started.
the hamster wheel started, and I felt like there was more wanted from the people that weren't on the board, like, and I think we were kind of like not knowing how to give back or do more, or, you know, we'd reached we'd reached our goal, that was our perception, so. And then things changed, topics changed, and here we are, and I think we're kind of on the hamster wheel again. It's very conceptual and, you know, not. I think we have a goal in mind, but it feels like it's very far away and it keeps getting pushed. And I'm just gonna say this, I think that our committee needs to have benchmarks and yearly events that happen at certain times with not as much preparation so that people can say, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna listen to that, and I'm gonna make time for it, and in the spring, I'm gonna do this, and so they can put it on their calendars and they can be ready, and it won't happen in a year or two, it'll happen as we do it consistently. But, you know, whatever we bring in, like they can be broad topics, we could plug them into those timelines. And I think that would give us incentive to create goals and to inform the community or allow feedback. But give the community, and I feel like they're kind of boggled right now, where like, where do we find the information? When is the meeting? What's happening? What's on front, you know? It's dark. There's like a sheep. So okay, I'm gonna stop talking.
No,
But
I think that's a good point though, because the nature of this group is because, you know, I'll just use finance, like, we know that there's a budget, there's a timeline that has to be followed to build the budget, present the budget, warn the budget, whereas with this community, with this community engagement committee, that's not the case. It's this sort of like timeline, but that's just sort of out there and without, and granted, the topic that we're talking about right now is so hard because there's so much going on in so many places, and it is super fluid, like it's constantly changing. So I think to Barb's point, you know, we almost need to, you know, pick certain topics.
Yeah,
And work towards that, and I don't know, but
just a thought.
yeah, it's a good thought, because it's challenging.
And I think about when I think about the change we're discussing locally, there's state stuff happening, there's national stuff happening, always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
And that can be really distracting. And I think from my perspective, like I think waiting to see where the state goes and what it does or doesn't do as a solution to our problems is really risky. But to be able to focus on what we have control over, what we can make decisions about, what we can engage our community about, there's a lot of really good, important work to be doing there, and just keeping that box really tight. You know, we're not far down a process, but we've been at this for several months now, and I think a lot of our community is unclear about like what exactly is going on. And this idea of timeline, I was thinking about that too, like there may have to be some flexibility with it, but we could backward design, like if we're talking about change that may require a vote of the electorate, when might that vote happen? And how would we backward design from that point in time to create a timeline for us to engage our community around this really big, really important topic about transforming education locally? Forget about state transformation.
Right.
And so what are some of those milestones along the way? Like, let's map this out
Mhm.
and let's get some strategically timed informational meetings. Think about information we want to get back from the community around these things, and how do we engage the community over this course of time? Like and time's ticking, like if we're talking about FY 28,
Right.
which I think is what we're talking about, that means maybe November of next year,
Right.
there's a vote.
Right. Yeah.
So what do we need to do between now and November of next year to bring our community along? Like, let's bring them up to speed of where we are right now today and how we got here.
Mhm.
And how do we keep them informed along the way as we work really through the spring. Like we're gonna have to enter next fall with a lot of work done to have something warned in time for a November vote, if that's, ultimately when this happens. When I think about it in my own head, if we're talking about really substantial change for FY 28 or 29, no, 28, then we need to make that decision probably in November so that we have some lead time to do that work really well and thoughtfully to make it a smooth transition. So,
Can I say something?
sure.
First of all, I know that things are feeling nebulous. And I want us to give ourselves credit because we've accomplished a lot this year. We had a virtual roundtable, we had an in-person presentation, we had a survey that garnered almost 600 responses. And we're working on the select board presentation, all while everything is up in the air. That's something that we can be proud of. I'm having a really hard time with the backward design and with the planning aspect of this because of how slowly our committee is moving. Thinking about the survey, how long it took to get the survey approved and out to the community, and now this presentation, thinking about how long and how contentious and how difficult this singular presentation has been, and thinking about at our board meetings, how some board members want to do one thing and other board members want to do another thing. My default setting is action. And this is not a helpful thing, but I just personally, as a human, I am feeling like it is really, really hard to get things done. So
I concur. I feel it.
Yeah, and I almost wonder that, because so much of what we're trying to deliver to the select boards has to do with the budget, which, I mean, I can't speak for the finance and facilities group, but do we just, and I don't want to say dumb it down because that sounds so negative, but do we just want to say, can you please provide us with an update where we stand as of right now? This is what we present. It's complicated. And moving forward, do we want to say, September 1, building a budget 101, mid-December, the December 1 letter, how, like, what we do with it and kind of start fresh. Because I understand that we definitely need to get this information to the select boards. And I think I worry about us not overstepping, but speaking out of turn where we're not the subject matter experts with all of that information. I mean, I don't know. Does that make sense?
yes.
It's already,
Same comment for me to hear.
yeah, should we move on to the next discussion item? Should we start that? Should that be how do you feel, Meredith, about that?
I need a minute. You guys keep going. I'll be back in 5.
Okay. But I will say that there's already been a letter posted in Front Porch Forum saying that we are going to be bringing this presentation to the select boards in January. So it's out there that we're working on this and bringing it out.
I'm not debating or suggesting that we don't. I'm trying to think of how do we move forward to get this to them in that time frame and avoid it, in future state.
I think that we can just go with what we know now. I really liked what Barb said earlier about this is where we are right now. It's a benchmark.
Yeah.
And this is what we know. And then
As we wait for Meredith, I think I was just sort of mulling over in my head, what's the information we want to have input on and get out to the community? And we have like several big things, the budget, what's happening with education, What was the other? I know there was a third that I was thinking about, but there are at least three really huge topics. And, you know, if you created an event around each one of those, you'd have your hands full,
Yeah.
you know? And I mean, I think to Meredith's credit, and I wanted to be here to hear this, it's like we had amazing things happen last year, and it wasn't that we didn't do anything. I worry about trying to get all the information perfect as we put together a presentation that may or may not be, it may be a moot point next week, you know? I mean,
That's the hard part.
so that's the question that goes through my mind. So how much effort, like, how much time do we allow ourselves to get put these pieces together before we move on to the next big topic that people need to hear about? I don't know, because there are a lot.
That's the $1,000,000 question, I feel like.
See, I don't see the budget stuff is changing. I mean, this is the time of year when it
Yeah.
changes weekly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
When I think about the presentation, I mean, this year's budget is part of the context, but there's so much more to that context that isn't changing week by week.
Right.
That the communication around, like, here's historically, this has been a struggle for us, like, you know, when I think back if I think back to 5 years ago, when we were talking about transformation,
Yeah.
we were forecasting what we are currently experiencing.
Right.
But
Right.
this is not new,
Right.
the problem we're in.
Right.
And so like that isn't changing week to week, but to talk about. Here's the work we're engaging in to respond to this challenge that is our current reality and will remain our future reality until we do something about it. And here's the process we're engaging in to address that. And here's some of the options we're exploring like that.
Yeah.
That isn't changing week to week so
Right.
much. And there's not much that we do that is static. And I think that's the challenge then is like, there has to be a more regular feedback loop with the community to keep folks apprised. Not at every little change because people won't have an appetite for that, but with some regularity, like, so here's where we are today. And here's how we got where we are today. Fast forward a month, 2 months, 3 months. Here's where we are now, and here's what happened since last time we talked with you. Yeah, and I think in a way, the presentation to the select boards is doing that. And the presentation to the select boards has different sort of context to it. There's a little bit of an attempt to sort of set the record straight, if you will, with that presentation. But I think it also helps achieve a little bit of, here's where we are and here's how we got here. And so I think it could be a springboard to other communications beyond select boards to the rest of the community about where are we now and how do we get here.
Yeah.
I remembered the other one, the ends,
Right, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I want you to know, I think you're my hero. The way you put things together is incredible. Yeah, and what we've done is huge. That I hope you didn't take it.
Yeah, and I did not mean what I said to be negative by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like throwing things to see what sticks to the wall because it's hard. We're on this hamster wheel. It's really hard. And so, yeah, I apologize. I did not mean.
It's okay. I'm
to-
sorry I
to
had
be
an
upsetting.
emotional reaction. It's tough work. I cry on recorded video, then you all can laugh at me.
No.
I deserve it. Are we talking about the presentation? Okay.
Yeah,
Where is
and
everyone's heads? with
yeah, I would
this?
say what we've covered is, what we need to, what ideas about what to focus on, current state of education, the ends, where we are in our process, the current budget, correcting the record, and what can be presented that isn't changing, such as long-term challenges, giving an opportunity for people to engage in our process as we move along, and as things change, and that we did accomplish quite a lot last year. In particular, Barb mentioned, Meredith, that we have done a lot and we have accomplished a lot and done some great things. And there was a lot of emotions before at the topic when we were kind of vaguely talking about it. We were discussing frankly racism in our schools. So it was also very emotional and had a lot of big feelings going on. So thus is community engagement, Meredith. Thank you for, leading our charge. Yeah.
I think when talking about this survey, there's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. Number one is in September, our first community engagement meeting post narrowing our education delivery options down to 7, something that everyone said at that time is our order needs to be staff, then select boards, then community. So at the time, it sounded like presenting to the select boards was a very important step for our committee in getting information about our education delivery options out to the community. Another thing that happened was the Starksboro Select Board letter that went out to all of the select boards that had very strong language in it, where I think it's important that we show all 4 of our select boards that we're not just operating behind a curtain, but that we want to communicate and we want people to understand what we're doing and that we're not trying to be like shady. And as far as the presentation that you're looking at now, I'm really proud of it. And I'm really proud of the work that Herb and Brad and I did. There's things that I put in there that there was one point where Herb said, Meredith, if you put this in there, I'm going to disapprove the whole thing. I'm going to leave this meeting. And as you know, only Herb can. We talked through it and it's still in there. And there's things that Herb put in there that I was like, Herb, absolutely not. You have to take this out. And that's in there too. So I think Herb and I have very publicly disagreed with each other on just about everything related to education delivery. And for the 2 of us to be able to put something together, I'm proud of it. But I understand that this isn't the Meredith Herb Brad presentation. This is the community engagement committee presentation. So there's things that we're going to need to change to make this our committees, and I will open the floor and see how everyone's feeling.
I would say one comment that I had was that the BOCES idea is applicable to all scenarios versus having it be about scenario 1. So it almost feels like, because I would say that it could be a slide, maybe even, versus directly attached to savings for scenario 1, because whatever we could do with that, we could do now. The law already passed, and it could be any of them. And hopefully, if we got the opportunity to engage in that work, could be any of them. And then my other thought was that I didn't feel like that in one of the beginning slides it said, and I very much appreciate that. I know we had people who were using their whole voice and their whole heart and put this presentation together. So I'm feeling like the least we can do to it, knowing that you guys did this hard work, right? So thank you so much for that. That I guess because I don't mean to like go bullet by bullet and all of that, but there was a line that said the population is decreasing at the high school and staying stable at the elementary schools before it increases. And I just don't feel that the increase that doesn't match my understanding, because the drop happened in the elementary schools and then they stabilized at that lower level. And that drop is now working its way through the high school, but that it's not going to increase. It's that it's stabilized at that lower level. So that lower level is what's going to then come through the high school, right? So I'm not sure what the thinking was around, and correct me if I'm not understanding it the same way, but I didn't think that implying that there would be an increase felt accurate to what the projections are saying. Just that it would
NSDAQ
stabilize.
projections actually show-
Sorry, go ahead.
NSDAQ actually shows even a little bit more of a decline from where we are now, a little less than stabilizing, but
So are the incoming elementary students somewhat less than stable at that stabilizing number,
No.
or are they?
what we're seeing sort of in the moment does look like a stabilization of the elementary grades. So I think, there's a statement about it stabilizing is what I'm seeing. NSDAQ projections, which look out a little bit further and look at a lot more data, like about birth rates and things of that nature. That projection is showing a little bit of a decline, not more than what we've seen, but a little bit more. I think maybe another 100 students or 150 students over the next 10 years. 120, yeah.
I know that there was some concern from. Can I say board members or do I just say Herb and Brad? What is the politically correct way to do this? There was some concern that the NSDAQ data was imperfect and that there seems to be some local trends that population may increase in the future. But I think based on the data that we as a board have, it's pretty clear that population is going to decline. So I think I agree. Maybe just leave it at, although student enrollment is stabilizing, it is down 324 students in the past 10 years with more decline in the next few years, and then take out the piece about beginning to increase. Would that feel good for us as a board?
Yeah,
Or you just add something that's more neutral and say something, this stabilization is unclear, or,
Yes.
something.
Anything that attempts to predict the future is fraught with peril because that's a
Yeah.
hard thing to do. But
Yeah.
there's nothing disputable about, we've lost 324 students in the last 10
Yeah,
years.
'cause
That happened.
that's,
That's
those
in the
are,
past.
those are facts in the past, and yeah.
And I think for me too, when you look at it, when you take it out of our sort of micro context and put it in a state context. Vermont has lost consistently about 1,000 students each year for the past 40 years.
Dang.
So there's nothing that shows a statewide trend that's turning a corner, like it continues year
Yeah.
after year.
yeah. I mean, a shocking number I feel is 5,300 seniors graduating in Vermont and 15,000 or 17,000 people retiring every year. Like, our needs are changing, right? So we don't need to put that in here, but that's something that kind of hangs tight with me about our needs. So
So it sounds like we as a board want to change this language to something more neutral, so. Enrollment is down 324 students in the past 10 years. Future stabilization is unclear or uncertain. I'll wordsmith it to make it something along those lines if we're cool with that. Bye, Pat on Finance, we'll miss you. What other thoughts do we have on the select board presentation?
I don't know if this would be. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about my feelings. No point about the options 2 and beyond, about the scope of the teacher, the staff and teacher layoffs. I mean, I don't, just because, it's apparent, and it's, I shouldn't say apparent, it's very clear that trying to avoid any layoffs is a priority. I don't know if it would be seen as like, ooh, scare tactic of, adding, an approximate number for the scenarios presented. Roughly, 20 positions would be eliminated, because I think that's important for people to see. With the understanding that, these are just scenarios right now, but I think that's important for for people to understand.
Yeah.
Because, while, one scenario may only be looking at, possibly 8 or whatever, this one is significantly more. I think, I don't know.
Do you have the numbers on hand right now, Kristen, for how many layoffs there are for options 1, 2, and 3?
I do.
Because I think I agree with that. And I mean, all options are gonna include layoffs.
Yeah.
So having the exact numbers of layoffs for options 1, 2, and 3
Yeah.
will help community members. And also, I don't know if we want to distinguish between classroom teachers versus building administration versus.
I've got that.
Okay.
And maybe like running that parallel to the decrease in student population.
Yeah.
So people can see you have less students here. We don't need that many teachers.
Mhm. Trying to remember option number 2. Do we remember what?
And I want that for option 1 as well if possible.
Option 1 was scenario A, right?
Yeah, so it was so option 1 was scenario 8.2. Or 8.1, it was 8.1.
8.1, okay, so so for scenario A, professional staff 8.65, support staff 1, admin 1.
How many support staff?
1,
And 1 admin?
yep,
Okay,
and then what was the next one?
so the next one was option 2, which I think was option E.
Yep, okay. Professional staff 13.45. Support staff 8.36. Admin is 2.
Okay, and then the last one was, oh gosh. what are the
I.6.
I.4 points.
I.4.
Or point, one of the I.4s. Or no, I.4 point,
4.2.
yeah, 4 point, just I.4, they're the same, because we had broken it down.
Oh, right, you're right, okay. So professional staff 14.55. Support staff is 7.36. And admin is 1. And these are all taken from that spreadsheet that was shared after the retreat that had all of them, on different tabs, so that's where I pulled that from.
Perfect, I
Okay.
trust you.
Cool.
I think it's. I think it's helpful information. Liz, Barb,
Yeah,
and
I do
Yes.
think it's helpful information. We know that you guys have run over it because I'm inclined to want to say like, hey, Beth, like support staff is usually based on needs of students, right? Like, so like sometimes, like these are approximate numbers, it's not as hard and fast as say like admin numbers, right? So, right. So it's, knowing that this is best projection of what it could look like, right? Does that make sense? Because you guys have already run over all of these and feel comfortable with those numbers, right?
I mean, it's a public document, so.
Right. Like Beth given the nod on
Oh,
that,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Or that way we're using
Yeah.
language that makes it, because special education is
I see what
not
you're saying.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Constantly changing the needs in each building. I think with this staffing, it's about cost savings, right? Because we know that the humans in our buildings are what the costs are, but with special education, yes, that could it won't affect administration, but it certainly could affect teachers.
Beth, are the special ed students bound by law to have certain amount of support staff?
It depends on their IEP, so their individualized education plan. If support staff is written into their IEP given their disability, yes. Yeah. and then services, which have to be delivered by the most highly qualified person, which special educator, speech and language pathologist, OT, PT. Like one student could move into a school district with multiple disabilities, multiple needs. Like that's a lot of money. Yeah. So
And
that
it
changes. So yeah.
So
is
that's
it sorry, am I correct to understand that sometimes we serve students in different elementary schools that have needs, like they don't go to their hometown school if that school is unable to meet their needs based on their disability requires a different environment, so they are being served at a different elementary school, which falls not under school choice and doesn't come to the board? Like, I'm trying to be as general as possible. Please don't answer if you don't want to.
Yeah. No, that's a fact. Yeah.
We feel good about the number.
Yeah.
Cool. What else? We ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Or can I make a motion? You know what? Let's open the discussion. Do I have a motion to open the? Somebody help me, put me out of my misery.
Not sure.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I would like to make a motion to authorize the CEC chair, she who shall not be named, to present the select board presentation to the full board with the goal of presenting to select boards in January. Would anybody like to second my motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kristen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Perfect. So I will make the changes that we talked about. We'll put that out to the full board for a vote next week. All right, our last item of discussion today is that the board has authorized us to work with Up for Learning on community events related to the ENDS policy. What ideas do we have and what do we want this to look like? We're also 29 minutes ahead of schedule, so, or 31 minutes ahead of schedule, so we can feel really good about that.
I do feel like I'm not giving Aaron in policy and governance what they need to write a new ENDS policy for us. That is something I've been struggling with. And so while I'm falling back on that it's a living document that can be edited over time or added to, more buckets added, right? Like the way policy works, you continue to add another layer. So I think I'm interested in meeting with Up for Learning and seeing how they think we can. I don't know if this is like they're gonna just finish the ENDS policy, and then at some point, even if we're going into strategic planning and we're doing that with them. So I guess I'm not 100% sure. And I'm looking for Up for Learning maybe to help us get ideas about where we fall in line with this process. But I do think we could use community engagement to add more definition and more substance to it. I mean, really, the ENDS policy is going to be used to create that monitoring report that we see, but the strategic plan is going to give us like our, that's where the percentages lie. And so, I don't know, Beth, or people who are responsible for making that. What I just feel like I don't know what to do or what for it to look like. I know it looks a lot different than what we used to have, but she was right. It looks like what another district has, and I would love to support them in that work. That's an enormous writing an ENDS policy. My only comfort is in that we can continue to work on it as a living document over time. That's my comfort.
I have an idea. I think what Barb and Kristen brought up earlier about having just biannual meetings. Maybe what we do is we just pick a date in March and we say, we are going to have. We're just gonna start doing this and we're gonna meet in March. And we're gonna talk about board things. And I'm assuming the ends policy will still be a board thing in March. And that will be a thing. I'm assuming education delivery will be a thing. And that's just what we'll do. What do we think?
Yeah.
I love your idea.
It's not my idea, it's your idea.
Well,
Don't
I
take credit
love
for
the
it.
idea of it, but I wonder. Would you visualize it as being a remote, somewhere people could come, or a physical? So, you know,
Legally,
because you
we
get that,
have to have a physical presence,
So a hybrid.
so a hybrid. I think we could make it work hybrid if we were flexible. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've done it before,
Mhm.
and it was successful.
would you see this happening before the vote? Or, well, that's
What do you
early,
think?
it probably after. Whenever our budget vote.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because it might be misconstrued as trying to jam too much information out there. You know, just sort of a touch base. This is, you know, this is what we're looking at. After the vote. I don't know.
Well, when's the vote? First Tuesday, huh?
Yeah.
Let's just do April,
Yes, yeah, good idea.
first week of April.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Okay.
No.
So that'll give us a lot of stuff to do in the spring semester, because we'll have our if the board approves it, we'll have our select board presentations in January.
Mhm.
And then we'll spend February and March planning our April meeting, which we'll have our April meeting. And then we can see what comes of that. It seems like a pretty good work plan for the next
Yeah.
4 months.
Do you foresee us doing anything with getting out budget information to the voters?
Oh, gosh.
I think it's almost too
Not now.
early, but yeah, but I think. I don't think
I
that.
mean, I'm not saying we have to, I'm just.
Yeah, I suspect we probably will, but I almost feel like that's something that we would be partnering with. Finance and facilities.
Yeah, I
something
agree.
like that.
Okay.
Cause again, I feel like that's where we need to lean on them for they own that information. That's their wheelhouse, whereas, you know, we're the mouth, they're the numbers.
Right, I don't think we, hopefully wouldn't have to do the preparation.
Agreed.
And I really don't think that. I feel like we've done a good job in the past. The people I worry about are the people who don't. Not our fault, have access to electronic information and. I think there are a lot in our towns that
Yeah,
fall into that category, so I wonder if that's where our focus may be.
I think that's a great
good
point.
points.
Just notice. That's awesome.
So we usually do the flyer, right? And I think Meredith, was it kind of that facilities and finance was gonna just take the charge on the meetings for budget? Or were we still setting them up?
Theory, that is what we had previously discussed as committee chairs.
Cool.
And we could
I was-
include links to it, right? Like we could include links to any work and help share it out and post it and get it out there. And then usually a flyer is done, which is really great, right? And we all approve that and look at that. I forget who
Yeah,
builds
and
it though.
we do front porch forum posts. And I feel like somebody else Jennifer puts out the social media posts and links. And then there's typically a presentation or two. At regular business meetings. In addition to all of that as well.
Right.
And I did have another question. Should we be sending something requesting time on the select board's January agendas? Because they're also presenting their budgets, right? That they hope to get passed in March. So
We just can't do it without board approval first.
well, they did approve us to do a presentation. I'm wondering if not even sending the presentation and just sending a letter requesting time on the agenda.
Okay.
To do
Yeah,
to do a presentation, but not necessarily sending it yet. But after the board approval, then we can send it out as like a follow-up, but just to have them think about holding some space for us.
I think that's a good idea. Plus, that'll feel like accomplishments.
Yes.
And I hope that there's no reason for it to not go through, but worst case scenario, we can always say, can you just bump us to the next one?
Yeah,
But at least we've
done it.
yeah.
So Kristen, do you want to take Starksboro? Barb, do you want to take Moncton? Liz, can you send the email to the Bristol Select Board and CC me?
Yep.
And then I will talk with Kathy and Sarah about New Haven,
So which meeting do we want to be on?
January meeting.
Any, because they meet twice a month.
Do you think any is reasonable?
Okay.
I am also happy to present with you at any meeting if you guys want backup.
Yay.
So feel free to CC me on your outreach to select boards.
I think that's a good idea too, just for visibility for
Yeah.
you anyway, just so you know, you can check it off, it's been done. And even, pointing out that, our board chairs on copy, that way if anybody has questions or need clarification, that you're on there. I think that's perfect. I think that's a way to do it
I
anyway.
would reciprocate if you want a body at the Bristol.
Thank you. Could always use bodies.
Yeah.
So we're all good with our respective towns, and I'll just be the proxy for New Haven.
So. Now, sometimes we run into conflicts with their meeting times and our meeting times. Is it okay if we go on a night that we have a meeting, or do we plan it for the night that that we have our CEC meetings?
Let's maybe try and plan it for the night that we have our CEC
And then
meeting, so.
If we're both,
Yeah.
we're doing both towns, then we can just like do it at a little bit different times. Yeah. Okay, Bristol might not meet on Tuesdays.
Don't worry about coming to the Moncton, or you are Moncton, you have to go to Moncton. Don't worry about going to the Bristol Select Board meeting. We have so many Bristol reps. I'm sure we can pull in additional bodies to
Okay.
our meeting. So don't feel like you need
But
to
I'll,
shuttle.
if I can, I will.
I mean,
If we could just plan
yeah,
it. All right.
cool.
All right. So,
Well. What else is on everybody's mind?
sorry for that.
Barb, why are you apologizing?
I feel like, all right,
Barb, you had
anyway,
the best idea the whole night.
moving right along.
We wanna adjourn?
Heck, yeah.
Are we done?
I think we are.
Oh my gosh.
Then the presentation looks amazing,
Mhm.
and I hope we. Yeah,
So
positive.
if we can circle back to the presentation for a second,
Mhm.
I wanna come back to this comment that the BOCES can be related to all three of the options. Because number one, I agree, but number two, this was a specific compromise. So I originally had pros for option 2 and pros for option 3. The cost savings for FY 28 as well as the Truex Cullens information. And that was where Herb said, take all of that out, otherwise I won't approve this presentation.
Take all of which out,
All of the cost savings for options 2 and options 3. He said, take all of it out, otherwise I'm not approving I'm ending the call and I'm not gonna approve this. And so the compromise was that he was gonna put in specific cost savings for option one, and I would take out the Truex Collins. So I took out the Truex Collins. And what is on, slide 8, the $4.06 million in savings from a 29 million MAUSD budget, that was the compromise. So if we take that and we put it into its own slide and apply it to all the options, then we're back at the original problem, which that is that there's no specific dollar figure tied to savings for option one, which for people who are very pro option one might make them feel like we are not giving option one a fair shot.
Can we
Whatever
add it
means.
to the other two? Can we add those savings to also options 2 and 3?
Kristen, you're from Starksboro. Can I put you on the spot or is that way?
Oh, God, I mean, I'm not really sure how to answer that,
Okay,
to be totally fair.
Because you can do a BOCES no matter how many schools we have.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. I see the point of contention about, you know, the slide 8.
I mean, if the entire board thinks. I mean, if Herb votes no on the presentation and the rest of the board likes the presentation with the BOCES CISA stuff being its own slide. That's something. I mean, this is our committee's presentation, not mine and Herb's and Brad's. So if our committee really like feels that we should take that out, then we take it out and put it into its own slide.
Should we bring this as a thumbs thing to the new board? Or not to the new board, to the full board? Or like make a choice on it tonight as to whether it be its own slide or be on all of them? Should we vote on that, thumbs on that, and then, I don't know, what do you think? What's efficient?
Let's see where our committee feels. And then when we present this to the full board, we'll make sure to double click on it. That sound good? Okay, so thumbs up means you think the $4.06 million from CISA should be its own slide. Thumbs down means leave as is. How's everybody feeling?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, because that is such a specific conversation that was had. I don't know how to, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I guess I would lean towards adding it to all 3, though. And then you're not taking away something you agreed on. And I guess I had thought, what am I remembering it differently, that we had agreed to put in the Truex Collins numbers as a full board? Or am I incorrect on that?
So
Right? Like that's, you know,
that
I don't
was
know, Meredith. I'm sorry. I really
no,
didn't want to.
the point of contention. That was a point of contention. We as a full board didn't specifically say to keep the Truex Collins information in. We said to share financial information. And financial information is in there.
Okay.
So what I think I'm hearing is that the 4.06 million could be saved in all options.
It could be.
But it's not made clear except for the slide.
Correct. I mean, what I would want would be for it to be its own slide and we can present it like that, but everybody knows what my views are and where my biases are, which is why I'm not saying we should do it. So.
Well, and I think it's interesting because it's based on other districts and support from the AOE, right? Like it's not something that we do within our own community, right? And so I think that's why I was initially thinking its own slide, is because it is kind of like the state update, state context type of thing, because we can't just do that, right? Like we need partners, we need partnership to do that.
Well, I think if I'm reading this correctly, this is speaking to options, and this is one as recommended by the state redistricting task force. as opposed to, I don't know, I don't know how to present that.
Maybe,
Should I just ask Herb?
well,
Should I just email him and ask him?
Yeah,
what he thinks?
it's a good idea, but I
Yeah.
also wonder if you did have it as its own slide, you could say this applies to all three options.
Okay.
And then also maybe, I don't know, maybe supported by this task force. You know, this is an idea that is supported by the redistricting task force. As of now,
Yeah.
and it could be applied to all three options, so. When people are looking at their options. They're saying, I want this, and I want to add that in, or I want that, and I want to add that in. I mean, so it's not, right now, it feels like it's making this one heavier.
Yeah, you're right, Barb.
Yeah, and even, you know, putting an asterisk there saying, you know, please see slide, you know, Q for, you know, specific information or something to that effect. Cause I think it is. But, you know, I think bouncing it off of her, because I mean, I don't feel comfortable speaking for the presentation that the three of you put together.
Yeah.
Because like I was not involved in that conversation, so I don't want to insert myself where it's
Understand.
inappropriate.
Totally understand. I think that's a good compromise. So what we'll do then is we'll do our own slide. The state redistricting task force in the 4.06 million, and maybe we just incorporate it into slide 8 somehow and say like. Possible saving, like. Sorry, Liz, were you saying something?
I was saying goodnight and I
Oh.
love you. Okay.
Yeah, let's make it its own slide. I'll email her.
Is that where you're leaning?
I mean, yes, but I don't know, I got. Ripped a new one for being biased at our last meeting, and so I'm trying to like be soft here and not.
But I think you have more prior knowledge of the process than we have.
Okay.
We're looking at the final product.
If you guys are okay with it. Then I'll put it as its own slide, but if that's not what we want as a committee, then I won't put it as its own slide. Or if you want me to just make a decision.
I think you should make the decision.
Okay, then I'll just make the decision. I'll make the executive decision. I'll make sure we talk about it as a full board. I will email Herb ahead of time and let him know. We'll roll with it.
Okay.
That sound good?
Thank you.
Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn. At 7:25.
Yeah.
So Barb first, anybody second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning at 7:25 PM, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, great night, everybody.
Good night.
Perfect. Good night.